So we're just trying to cover the full gamut and provide opportunity and just amplify businesses where they're at, local, support local.
Wow. Well, again, we applaud you. We thank you for the vision and bringing those technology solutions to the restaurant game. What's the future hold for Eat Okra?
I would say limitless. Limitless. We have so much we want to do. So we want to reach overseas. We want to make sure people can order through the app. We want to bring on more food trucks. We want to work with the farms. We just really want to help and just really cover that full food and beverage gamut for the restaurant owners.
Excellent, excellent. Well, again, we want to thank you for your work and your contributions and for sponsoring this podcast here today, celebrating Black History Month. So without any further ado, I'm going to get right into it. Today, we are blessed to have 3 representatives from Union Square Hospitality Group. And we have Rose Noel, who is an executive chef. We have Denez Moss, who is a general manager. And we have Chip Wade, who is the president of Union Square Hospitality Group. Lady, gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Denez.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, just to give people a little understanding of what we're trying to accomplish today. Today, we're here to identify the contributions to Black people in food service. In addition to that, we want to highlight the success of those individuals clearly that we have on the panel. We know that for generations there have been systemic issues and challenges that we've had as Black people, particularly in the food service and hospitality space. And we want to be careful about understanding the size of that space. Food service and hospitality go together. Hospitality, you're going more into the hotels and the hospitality, the service side of things. And then in food service, you have institutional, you have commercial, and then you have independent restaurateurs. So now, as we think about the challenges that we have as Blacks in America, we also have to think about the challenges we face as individuals climbing the corporate ladder within organizations. So clearly we have demonstrated here by bringing the panel today, we have 3 very successful individuals. And my goal for today's show is to take a deep dive into the decisions that they made throughout their careers and continue to make, and how they've been able to overcome obstacles and barriers, and what did they do to retool themselves throughout their careers. So those are the questions that we're going to ask today. As listeners, you can also ask questions through the link here, through the chat, and we will field as many questions as we can. So again, start to think your questions as we go through, and we'll filter them through, and we'll respond to them. We'll have each panelist respond to them. So let me start with ladies first, if you gentlemen don't mind. So we're going to break this down into topic discussions, right? Discussion topics. The first category is maturing as a professional, right? Meaning that as you go into the restaurant and food service industry, there's entry level, there's mid level, and then there's executive level challenges and jobs and pay scales. So the question number 1 is, what were some of the pivotal points in your career, and how did you navigate those situations, both internally and externally? And external navigation would mean, obviously, your family, your friends, people that you know. Internally would be your bosses and your coworkers. So let's start with Rose, executive chef, female, Black, in America. Whoa. Let's give her a round of applause, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's, again, this is the discussion that we're going deep here, and we want to have a real conversation. So don't worry about all of the listeners and things of that nature. So, Rose, congratulations on that. So tell us, what was that journey like, and what's it like? Because I'm sure you're still experiencing it every day.
Every day. I think the key for me has been finding champions where I work, and having a really great support system in my work life, outside my work life, people in the industry, my family, my dad, my mom are great people to just bounce ideas off of concerns. So I guess I would start with wanting to move up to my first management position, and asking how has everyone else in the industry done it there. And I think not seeing a spot where I was working and not being afraid to look for it somewhere else where wasn't necessarily comfortable, but having like a really good friend who was willing to vouch for me,
Right.
and set me up with like a really good team of people to learn what I need to learn, even though I didn't have the experience when I went in and didn't necessarily think I could do it myself.
Right.
And he was like, "You got this. I know you got it. Go in. Whatever you need to know, I'll teach you." We had like coffee dates where we went over like food costs because I had no idea. I was just like a cook before then.
Okay.
So I had people in my life who were willing to like dig in with me and get me to where I wanted to go.
Okay. So in terms of food costs, you mean actually learning the numbers of making not only food just taste good, but also making it profitable.
Making the food, the business of food and restaurants. Because when you're a line cook, you don't have to think about it. You just make it to service and get out of service and you clean, you go home. But when you want to move up, you're thinking about everything else, every step of the way. And you want to always be one step ahead so that when you get promoted, you're ready for it.
Okay. And then were there any pivotal moments in your career where you said, okay, do I need to, how did you make the jump from line cook to sous chef or executive chef? What was that like? And what were some of the challenges you saw?
Well, that one was, I left Myelino to work at a smaller restaurant, Monument Lane in the West Village in New York. And it was a situation where it was just the chef and myself.
Okay.
So I had to learn everything and I had to learn it quick because he had just got married and then went on his honeymoon and was like, "Okay, Rose, you got this."
You got it.
Like, in my head, I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't got this at all."
Right.
So you learn really quickly when you just kind of get thrown into a situation. And it was like, he gave me some parts and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to be gone for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, Don't burn down the restaurant. Don't make everyone quit while you're there." So you're just like, okay.
Lock the door. Make sure you turn off the lights.
You have
turn
no
off the
option.
lights.
When you realize like there is no option, I'm not going to fail. I'm going to get out of this restaurant and be like a bigger, better person. You just like, okay, whatever I need to do, whoever you need to reach out to.
Got you.
You do it.
Got you.
I was pulling all my friends in. I was like, "You teach me about this. I don't know what I'm doing. Dig me out of this hole." And I left that restaurant. I felt like I could run any restaurant after that.
Excellent. Congratulations again. Dinesh, same question.
Pivotal points in my career that I've made changes, I would say I started in the kitchen. So I had a culinary degree and transitioned from the kitchen or the culinary side of things. I spent 4 years there and had a yearning or a desire to learn more. So I decided to go back to school and attain a baking and pastry degree.
Okay.
After attaining my baking and pastry degree, I decided, I'm from the Bahamas, and I decided, hey, I want to explore New York, the greatest city in the world, and wanted to find out what it was like to work in the front of the house, because knowing that they're both aspects of a restaurant, the culinary team and the dining room team, wanted to see what that life was all about. I'm from the Bahamas, as I said, so I was very hospitable, and tourism is our #1 industry. So gravitating towards people was a natural thing for me to do.
Right.
So yeah, after my first change was from the culinary team to baking and pastry, and from that decided to find out what it's like to be in a restaurant and engage with guests and find the ins and outs of hospitality through the lens of restaurants. From my first step in USHG, and I haven't left restaurants or the front of the house or dining room team since I've entered USHG maybe 8 years ago now.
Okay.
I started off as a line cook in baking and pastry and raised my hand to say, hey, I don't know anything about restaurants or serving guests, but I am here to learn as much as I can and take it all in. With the wealth of knowledge I had in the culinary side of things, I was able to move up through varied positions at Union Square Cafe. I want to say,
I was just going to say, let's give a plug to where you work. Absolutely. Shout out Union Square.
Yes.
We got to do it right. Absolutely. Go ahead.
So I started off from being a line cook, to being a support staff member, busser, and grew very quickly into being a server. Still eager to learn. Made the jump to assisting with the bar, reservationist, till finally I had completed pretty much every front of house position that there was. And then I grew into a management role, opening the Whitney Museum back in 2015.
Wow.
And hence from there, have held varied levels of management throughout different restaurants in the organization, and returning home to where I currently am as the GM of Union Square Cafe.
Wow.
So full circle.
Wow. Congratulations again. And again, it sounds like you both just put your nose to the grind, and as well as partnered up with other people and just kept learning and learning and retooling yourselves. Again, congratulations. Kudos to you. Chip Wade, now we're at the executive level. So you are the president of Union Square Hospitality Group, which, let's just start, how big is that? How, you know what I mean? Clearly there's not as many blacks in your position across the country. So, let's acknowledge that and applaud you for that. And clearly that's no easy task. So give us a little bit about, your pivotal points in your career, and how did you handle those situations, internal influences, external influences?
Sure. First of all, thank you. Delighted that we could join this conversation. I applaud you for hosting a really critical topic, and so delighted to partner with you and eat okra. Second thing I wanted to say is just a shout out to both Rose and Dinesh, who I'm obviously big fans of. They are the future of our industry, right? These black faces that you see in front of us, they're the future of hospitality and culinary, not just for our company, but I think for our industry. So delighted that they could join. Not too dissimilar from Dinesh, right? A couple of pivotal points for me. One was grew up in culinary and a culinary grad, as you know, and I spent my early years in the kitchen. And again, not too dissimilar from Dinesh, fighting to get to the front of the house so that I could learn service and frankly, in some cases, make a little bit more money earning some tips. And so there's that moment where you don't want to abandon your teams from the culinary, but you also want to experience and learn something new. Really key moment for me. I would say two others. One was in the late 80s, I had the opportunity to be a general manager of a high volume restaurant in Boston. And Boston is one of my favorite cities, but at the time, it had obviously in the 70s and the 60s had gone through their own diversity challenges, just like any other major city. And so that was a challenge and an opportunity, but it helped me to mature and grow as a leader. Okay. And then the third challenge moment, I should say, was I was asked to move into HR. I spent 5.5 years of my professional career outside of the discipline where I thought I would just naturally stay, which was culinary in front of the house. And it was just a maturation point for me as I was asked to go into a different discipline.
Okay. Wow. And so as I segue to the next topic now, again, I'm coming through black lenses. So, for me, I understand a lot of times that we are under the microscope a lot more, watched closely than others. So now as you ascend up the chain of command, you're acquiring power, right, and influence. And again, quite often there's a double standard. So, let's go back to Rose and go through the whole gamut again through all three of you. Like, how do you handle that power? Sometimes you're afraid to hire another black person because if they don't work out, then they look at you like you're hiring incompetent people. If you know what I mean? Like, just let's be real about the conversation about some of the challenges that you face and how you navigate and handle acquiring power and influence, and so that it's peaceful and you're getting the job done. Rose.
Like question, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you might not even experienced any of that. So, I mean, don't make anything up. Just tell me if you haven't experienced it.
Oh, of course.
But
I'm a bad liar anyway, so you
is it something you think about? Is it something you're conscious of?
You always think when you move up, period, you're always thinking of the microscope that you're under anyway.
Right.
But being Black, it's even more so because you don't want to feel like you've ruined it for everyone else after you.
Right.
So you're like, I have to do a good job for me, but now I have to do a good job for everyone who is hoping to come up after me.
Right.
I don't want to be the last Black GM.
Right.
And you know, like you don't. It may not be very well true, but it starts to feel like you want to make sure you set an immaculate road for everyone else that's following you.
Absolutely.
So it's just like you put this pressure on yourself to make sure I succeed, not just for me, because I want to be amazing and awesome, but everyone who's working with me, everyone who I hire, I want them to see someone that looks like them in a position that they maybe didn't think that they could get to, but now it's like, okay, she's there, she's doing an awesome job. I can be there, I can do a great job, and maybe I can get further too.
Gotcha.
So it's more of just making sure like I do well for everyone who I want to be where I am.
Right. Dinesh, any experience?
Rose, I couldn't have said that any better. Definitely being under a microscope and wanting to make sure that, I think, at least I can speak for myself, there weren't many others that looked like me, and that I love a challenge, and I love when someone tells me that I can't do anything. So wanted to prove that, in high volume or fine dining restaurants, there are individuals of color that can do a job just as well, if not better than anybody else.
Right.
And allow people to feel comfortable. And as I grew in my role throughout the different restaurants, a big thing for me was making sure that I created an environment where everyone felt comfortable.
Right.
Because it's okay to attain power, but if the team that you're leading doesn't feel comfortable or enjoy their experience of working with you, then there's no retention, and they feel like it's not a good fit. And granted, at times there are going to be occasions where it doesn't feel like you're the best fit for whatever the role is, and you just have to push through. And it goes back to what Rose said, having that support system in which are individuals to encourage you whenever you may have a down moment or feel, hey, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But yes, who's to say that I'm not? Like, why can't I work as hard, if not harder, to attain things that my counterparts are attaining?
Right.
So making sure that everything we do is with excellence and integrity, so that just because someone had faith in me and afforded me the opportunity, wanting to make sure that the same happens for individuals who aspire to whatever role they aspire to.
Right. Absolutely. Excellent. Mr. Wade, executive level challenges.
Things, right. One, I'm a tad bit older than your other two guests, and I would say this, right? The first thing is my mom and my uncle, who had a huge influence on me, by their words and their actions, said to me, you are going to have to work harder and longer than your white counterparts. And if you aspire to move up and take on more responsibility. And when you, both by their actions and their words, and you're hearing that at 18 and 17, it's pretty heady stuff, right? It's both like you're excited about that and you're not really attuned to the full rationale behind that. But I think we can't ignore that there is some internal pressure that is on, Blacks in this industry. Some of it may be coming from parents who said, as I stated, my mom said to me, or as Rose said, I don't want to be the last executive chef in this organization, right? In my case, I think I could probably count on one hand the number of Black presidents, CEOs, or COOs in our industry. So it's always on your mind. I think this second comment I wanted to make was this notion of, as Dinesh was talking about, you want to create a comfortable environment for your employees wherever you're working. And part of that is making sure that you don't come across as a threat, right? So as a person of color, if you're in an environment where the vast majority of both the guests and your employees are white, and we know that the news is always not favorable for people, for Black and brown people, right? And so you don't want to come across as a threat to them. So there's added work from that perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent. Excellent. So next set of questions, we're going to move into, it kind of follows up off of the first question in terms of, just really quickly, how calculating were you with your career moves? Like, did you strategically think about your moves 6 months, 12 months in advance, or did an opportunity just come across your plate and you were at a crossroads and you said, all right, let me just jump in with both feet, or let me give it a shot? I see you smiling, Dinesh. Let's start with you this time.
Smiling because as a Black person in America, I'm like, do opportunities just happen to come our way? I've never heard that. But hey,
Yes, sir.
it doesn't say that it isn't true or it's not possible for it to exist. I think I was very calculated with my moves in regards to my career. Coming back again from the Bahamas, I had a catering company where I knew culinary and I knew that was a great thing. And I felt like I had my grasp of that and wanted to learn more, and felt like, how can I be the best expression of myself and market and be more marketable? So when it came from me wanting to grow and have knowledge of baking and pastry, I felt like, okay, there was a thing in culinary school where bakers always felt that they were more intelligent than the culinarians because baking is a science. So I'm like, well, I don't want to seem as if I'm not intelligent. So I want to definitely show that I can both cook savory and know the science behind baking and pastry. And then thinking about, okay, if I had a catering company, but like I think I want to own a restaurant. So in order for me to own a restaurant, like what steps do I need to take as an individual to make sure that whenever I do decide to open my own establishment, that I have as much knowledge as I possibly can attain to run a business efficiently. So throughout my career, it was like, okay, what do I need to do to get to the next level to one day become a general manager? And I remember from my first entry the organization, I told my GM at the time, like, I'm coming for your job.
I was just going to say, are you going for Chip's job? No disrespect, Chip.
Yes, I think, why not? Like, why limit myself at just being a general manager? And
Absolutely.
And at one point, Chip is going to have to move on to bigger and better things or want to retire. And I'm sure he doesn't want to be the only one standing in his position. So, hey, if I can set myself up to attain that role, then he doesn't have to work so hard and his work wouldn't be in vain.
Absolutely. And he could be proud because I know he's that type of guy anyway. He's a natural mentor.
I want you and Rose fighting for my job. That's outstanding.
Yep. No, absolutely. Thank you. Rose, how calculating were you?
Dinesh, I wanted to say thank you for that comment. Things don't just seem to fall out of the sky for everyone in the same way. But I think, like Dinesh, you have to be 100% calculating. When I knew I was more than just a line cook, no matter what anyone told me, I was like, no, I know what I am. I know what I want to get to. I know what I need to do to get there. And I started building a timeline. This is where I want to be in 5 years. What do I need to do right now to get to that point?
Right.
So even like with right now, it's like, okay, I'm an executive chef. Where do I want to be in the next 5-10 years? So you have to start thinking of that now, because it's not easy. Things don't just happen for you. You have to like get to know the people you need to get to know, read the books you need to read.
Yep.
Right. Like right now, you need to already know that information in order to start moving up.
Yep. No, absolutely.
It's not easy. And it wasn't even a straight road.
Right.
The first step I had to take, I had to leave the restaurant I was comfortable in to go to a place where I didn't know anything, to like start making the steps in the direction I wanted to go to.
Gotcha.
So 100%, you need to have a plan. It
Absolutely.
won't just happen for you. No one will just give it to you.
Absolutely. So part of the part of this discussion's goals and objectives is to motivate and inspire the next generation of restaurateurs and restaurant food service professionals. So I hope they're listening out there, because, it's important that you see and hear, Black and brown people who look like you that have done it and have gone through it and are still going through it. So again, this is great. This is a great discussion. I'm loving it. Chip, how about yourself at the executive level? Were you calculating?
I'm going to say a little bit of both, right? I think I was clearly calculated as a young man that I wanted to be in the industry, right? I wasn't a starving artist or someone that was working in finance. I knew I wanted to be in this business and calculated to know that I wanted to go to culinary school.
Right.
Calculated to know that I wanted to finish up with a bachelor's degree. And so as I ascended, calculated some moves to get a master's degree. With regard to the mix, candidly, there were two jobs that kind of, I'm going to use your term, kind of fell out of the sky. But they didn't fall out of the sky, right? There had to be a leader who had to sponsor and support these opportunities that came to me, right?
Right.
And so we have an industry leader by the name of Wally Doolin. He's been around for 45 plus years in our industry, and he's been a mentor and he's been a friend, right? And so I was navigating through a series of jobs, kind of minding my own business, and Wally presented me with this opportunity to move into real estate design and construction. Gotcha. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't asking for it. Frankly, I had more gum to chew in my current role, but I think there's this notion of, in this case, of having leaders, right, be they white or black, see something in the next generation and say, I'm going to challenge that person. So again, for me, it was a little bit of both.
Got you. Wow. Thank you. Great discussions. Again, that was the first half hour, just to give you guys an idea where we are. It went by quickly, didn't it? Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna segue into the next 30 minutes, and now we want to talk about the future, right? We're gonna pivot to the future of Black people in food service and hospitality. So the questions are going to come. How do we increase the number of Black food service professionals at the executive level? So now I'm gonna speak to you, saying, I consider you guys to be at the executive levels. I feel, from being in the industry myself, we have good numbers at the entry level and mid-level management jobs. But when you start talking about, again, executive chefs and general managers and vice presidents and presidents of companies, clearly we have a lot of work to do in that area within our industry. So I feel sometimes, for those of us that love our industry, sometimes the industry truly has not loved us back as much. But again, we're here to celebrate. We're here to be optimistic about the future. So I would be curious to see, how do we increase those numbers? And I'm sure it's going to be along the lines of some of the things that you already spoke about. But in order for Dinez and Rose to get to that next level of professionalism, who are you going to compete against? And in what level of education must you acquire going forward? And then what else can we do to attract and bring up, again, the next generation of executives so that we can start to fill some of these gaps? Dinez, let's start with you first. Let's give Rose a chance to think about that. See, Rose, I told you I got your back. Don't worry about it.
All right, Rose. All right. I think the way to do that is to hire with intent. And that's just the beginning of it. Filling a restaurant with a diverse group of individuals that, one, sets an atmosphere for everyone to feel equally heard and valued, is great, because that starts with the retention process. And then once you have a team, making sure that you invest in them, because the last thing that you want is to just bring this mixed bag of nuts together and for everyone just to feel like a commoner. So creating a level playing field, listening to each individual and what their struggle and their stories are, investing time and time to not just catch up with things that pertain to the restaurant, but invest in their lives so that they feel not only valued, but appreciated and heard, and that there's someone in their corner, not only as a boss, but a mentor of sorts that they can look up to and talk about, hey, there's this great opportunity in another restaurant that I can go ahead and grow to a management level or a GM level. Like, selfishly, I may not want that individual to go, but like, be candid and say, hey, let's be calculated about this decision. What will this do for your career? What is your next step after that? And where are you trying to go? So investing in people and having those conversations that might be be tough and not in favor of your business, but making sure that that individual feels like they have all the tools necessary to do whatever it is that their hearts desire.
Okay. Ms. Rose, anything to add to that?
Maybe just to piggyback on that, I think the investment piece is big. I know any manager who's managed me knows I'm like headstrong, and to not be just like a push back with that, to know like I need to know everything in order to understand it. I think getting to know your team as people instead of just a workforce definitely helps. It helps you understand how to manage them better, how to just like help them grow and understand like you're invested in the person. So I'm giving you like crap about this because I want you to be better at this.
Right.
And I want you to grow. And this is why I'm harder on you for the reasons you do this. Cause I know this is what you want to get to. And this is what it takes.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to treat you any differently, but this is all for the reasons of I brought you on the team because you said you wanted to get somewhere, and this is what we're doing.
Right.
If you're not ready to go there, then maybe you should rethink it. But we're building a team of people who are excellent and want to be excellent.
Got you.
And we have a side conversation, like Dinesh says, get to know the people and their goals. And lots of people I did not want to leave. You make them into great people, so just let them go. And that's basically it. But that's the only way you build a great team.
Got you. Chip, how do we get more presidents, vice presidents?
Yeah. I'm going to give you a slam dunk response and then 3 follow-up comments.
Okay.
One is we just got to stop talking about this issue, right? We've been talking about this for 40, 45 years of how do we get more Blacks on corporate boards? How do we get more Hispanic men and women at the C level, right? And so we have been talking about this notion for the past, my time frame, 35, 40 years. Mm-hmm. And that's number one. And less talk and more action, but that action requires courageous leaders to step up.
Right.
So that's my slam dunk response. I think, and the others are related. Number 2 is we have to show the data, right? We have to show the data. And number 2 and number 3, show the business case behind why diversity and inclusion makes sense, right?
Right.
It's indisputable.
Right.
There's no question that when an organization has a more diverse board, a more diverse C-level, a more diverse workforce, that their business, the link between diversity and growth in revenue and profits is indisputable.
Right.
And so I think we have to show the numbers, we have to show the data, we have to clearly make sure that we're articulating the business case. And then I would say lastly is we have to celebrate those leaders that are in critical positions. And again, I applaud you. You're doing that today with these 2 leaders that are in front. And I'm going to wrap up my response because I'm passionate about this with this one statistic, right? And man, I have been marinating on this statistic for 30, 40 days. I just saw this stat.
Okay.
Fortune has been publishing their Fortune 500 report for well over 50 years. And in that 50 years of Fortune 500 companies,
mm-hmm.
only been 19 Black CEOs.
Wow.
50 plus years of Fortune magazine. That's a staggering, sadly, data statistics
right.
that you can't dispute.
Right.
And so that's when I talk about showing the numbers and informing and educating, that's an example.
Clearly is. Wow. Very deep. So, Tip, I guess as we segue now into some of these executive level questions, these might be more geared towards you. One, just give the listeners an overview of Union Square Hospitality Group and who you are, who they are, what you do for them, and so they can just understand the magnitude and the responsibility that comes with being the president of such a large organization.
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't do this by myself, right? We have outstanding senior leadership team. Mm-hmm. Union Square Hospitality Group was founded well over 35 years by Danny Meyer, the restaurateur and the really savvy business executive. And so while I am honored and thrilled to be the president, I don't do this by myself.
Right.
We are a multifaceted organization. We operate over 18 plus restaurants here in New York, and we operate businesses in Washington, D.C. When I say multifaceted, we operate at the high-end, chef-driven, fine dining restaurants,
Okay.
and we also operate in the fine casual space and several brands in between. Our celebrated brands like Union Square Cafe, Gramercy Tavern, which many across the country know those celebrated brands. I would add Blue Smoke to that.
Right.
We also have a very large and growing Union Square events business and a great leadership team overseeing that business. And so they're in business in the industry. In Union Square Events, we operate in a handful of sports stadiums and arenas. We do large events and catering events for businesses and for people here in New York. I would say basically from New Jersey all the way up to Connecticut. So it's a multifaceted business. We have consulting practices within Union Square Hospitality Group.
Right. So describe executive level job opportunities within Union Square Hospitality Group. What are the educational requirements? What are career paths? So if we're trying to attract, and hopefully some people might want to apply for jobs after this, they have to see this and hear this, they may not have been considering it. Just give us an idea of what types of jobs are available at the executive level.
So as you defined them, the executive level, which I think it makes sense, you've added an executive chef and GM, right? Mm-hmm. And so we are actively looking for talent today. As most of your listeners know, it's been a very interesting, unprecedented 10, 12 months that we've navigated through COVID. Here in New York specifically, we just started reignited indoor dining. And so we went through a period, sadly, last March where we had to lay off well over 2,300 employees. And so we navigated through the highs and lows of outdoor dining and indoor dining. But to answer your question, today we are specifically looking for executive chefs and general managers. We're looking for that layer below, to be clear, sous chefs and maitre d's in all of our restaurants. What we are looking for is people that have a love for hospitality that is in their genes. We call it the 51 percenters. We obviously want to make sure, and that 51% are people, as I said, they bring their heart and their passion and their enthusiasm to their job.
Right.
They are curious by nature.
Right.
And then we talk about the 49%, which is the technical aspect, which is I can successfully saute scallops.
Right.
I know how to manage a dining room with 45 servers, et cetera. But we are most definitely looking for talent.
Okay. All right. So let me see. Do we have any questions coming in, Marvin?
We have a question from Jean Rosa. What steps will USHG make once its doors open in order to have a more diverse and even playing field?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I sure did. And thank you. I think the question came from Jean. So let me thank that person. I will say a couple of things. One is we are so committed to this that we soon will publish our diversity and inclusion goals. And so I think for any organization that has any aspirations to make meaningful progress in this area,
wow,
you got to step out there and articulate to both your current workforce, and eventually this will be on our website. Mm-hmm. And when I say to you, Jason, and the audience, we're less than 3 weeks away of making this public. And so that to me is step number one, is sharing with the broader audience, here is what we're shooting for. Number two, we will activate plans to make sure that we are going to the source. That's both a short term and a long term. And so in the long term, as an example, we need to make sure that we're having relationships with the historically Black colleges and universities across the country. There are a handful of them that offer culinary and hospitality programs. And rest assured that I, our head of people, head of HR, chief people officer, my apology, these leaders that are in front of you, they will be actively engaged in the future to make sure that we are actively engaged with those universities to the same degree we are with Cornell and Johnson & Wales and CIA. And so, and then the third thing I would say is, as more leaders like Rose and Dinesh get into these critical positions, then I'm going to place the responsibility on them to make sure that their workforce looks like the guests that come in and looks like the communities where we operate.
Absolutely. Wow. Great question. Now, let me just take that a little step further, Chip. When we look at individuals that step outside of the food service careers in terms of education, so, but, what do you say to those that may be in law school and looking to pursue corporate legal jobs? What opportunities are within Union Square Hospitality Group? For those that are in HR, human resources, what opportunities are available? For those that may be pursuing finance degrees at other major universities, what types of opportunities exist, and what do those career paths look like for those individuals throughout your organization?
Yeah, so I would say with regard to the career pathing and the idea of coming into our organization and ascending up, one, we want to make sure, regardless of the discipline, Jason, so it could be accounting, it could be legal, it could be HR, right? We want to make sure that those individuals, again, have that balance, as we call it, of 51 percenters and 49 percenters. So they have to have the technical knowledge and skill set to work in those disciplines that you just articulated, right? Yep. If you're going to work in our legal department, you have to be comfortable navigating through, for example, leases and letter of intents. And so you have to have that knowledge. We're looking for finance people today. And so some in financial planning and analysis and some in accounting. And so it obviously is going to be to their benefit if they have degrees and past experience doing financial planning and analysis or doing accounting work.
Gotcha.
And then to get to an elevated sense, you have to deliver great results for sure. You have to make the people around you better. You have to have, I know I'm being repetitive here, you have to have that hospitality gene where you want to be of service,
right,
and to do it in a way that is festive and fun and creative, right? I mean, this is a fun industry, right? We're not in manufacturing. There's no one here making toilets. We're not trying to put men or women on the moon.
Right.
We're trying to provide a fun environment where guests can come in, have a wonderful glass of wine, but to connect, engage with whomever is at the table. And then we, our employees, our leaders, play a role to make sure that that party comes to life.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Last question. Are there any opportunities for subcontracted Black-owned businesses to do business with Union Square Hospitality Group?
I'll take that. And the answer is an emphatic yes. Okay. Right. And so we, as boldly as we are making statements with regard to what we're going to do internally at the employee level and management level, we are making like promises from a diversity and inclusion perspective. And I'll just give one example, and I'll promote this company, that Zach and Zoe's Honey. It's a minority-owned business, a young husband and wife team based in New Jersey, but they also have a retail brick and mortar here in New York. And they make fantastic honey. And I recently met them, in fact, via a webinar, and then was able to get their product. I have since, and this has been less than 3 weeks, been able to give their product to several of our leaders from the culinary side, where they can test it, whether it's in the savory side or the sweet side. And we have a brand called Daily Provisions. And at Daily Provisions, we have 2 locations where a person can come in and buy daily provisions, right? Bread and eggs, and as well as get some deliciously prepare food that you can't cook at home.
Right.
But in that case, Zach and Zoe's honey will be proudly displayed, and it's in a small way responding to your question of how we're going to collaborate with more women-owned and Black-owned businesses.
Okay. All right, Marvin, any questions come through before we wrap up?
Yes, we have a thanks for the great discussion. Would be nice if you could dive into the enlightened hospitality investments, and how do you support diverse and multicultural concepts?
Sure. EHI is Enlightened Hospitality Investment, is a investment arm that Danny started along with his partner Mark Levitt about 5.5 years ago. And the intent is to make investments in like-minded companies that are people-centric and are very creative. And so that business is the day-to-day operations, and the decisions with regard to enlightened hospitality investments are made by Danny and Mark Levitt. My role and a couple of my direct reports, we help where we can. We provide counsel to these businesses. But EHI has made, I may have my numbers off, somewhere between 9 and 11 investments over the past couple of years, and some well-known brands that many of the listeners are aware of. So Joe Coffee is an example, Gold Belly is another example, Madison Reed, which is a hair coloring product. So that's the investment arm, and it's managed by Danny and Mark Levitt.
Got it. Okay. Wow. What a fruitful discussion. Let me give everybody a round of applause. So before we wrap up, let me just open it up and see, let's go around the table and see if there's any last departing words or pearls of wisdom you want to drop, and contact information, how people can get in touch with, each of you or one of you, or however you want to disseminate that information. Let's start with ladies first. Rose.
Well, so happy to have been welcome onto this podcast. Thank you for having me on. Always wonderful to know that people are listening in. And I think I would love for anyone interested in restaurants to apply. We can't hire you if the applications aren't there. I think I would definitely have a more diverse team if I had more diverse applicants. So please stop by. My email is rnoel@ushg.com. Please shoot me an email if you just even need a mentor or questions on how to break in. I know mentors have been a big thing for me to just to figure out that this is even what I wanted. So if you just want to chat, you just have questions about anything, life, feelings, the air, please contact me.
Thank you, Rose. Dinez.
I can be reached at D as in David, MOSS at unionsquarecafe.com. And similar to Rose, would love to just have a dialogue with whomever might be interested or wants to know more about hospitality. And if you are in the area of New York or DC, pop into our restaurants and see our leaders in action and see what we do and how we throw that party in our dining rooms. And if there's ever a moment that you can bring a family together, I know it's COVID times now, so whatever you can do, shoot us a note so that we can help take care of you and create that experience for you that we create for many of our guests.
Thank you, sir. And last but certainly not least, Brother Chip, I want to thank you. You and I go back 30 years, so it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Any final departing words for today's listeners?
First of all, I'm intensely proud of my two leaders. I think they did a fantastic job, but more specifically, Rose and Dinez's closing comments around being a mentor. And I would say if there is a line cook, if there's a front of the house manager anywhere listening who aspires to learn more, call these two leaders, right? Don't be shy, don't be reserved. I applaud these leaders for giving their email addresses. I think this role modeling the right behavior and mentoring is how we will have more future leaders. So I applaud you both and thank you. Jason, listen, I think you're right. It's 32 some odd years that you and I have known each other.
Yeah.
I'm intensely proud of you and the work that you do. I'm grateful that you are a force in the industry to keep these conversations going.
Thank you.
And so I applaud you and keep up the great work. Listen, my closing comments are, I would encourage everyone on this call to stay curious, ask a lot of questions of Dinesh, of you, of me, build those relationships, number two, right? And building relationships is a powerful tool in your toolbox to help you learn more, mature, and grow. I would say number three for anyone that is listening, don't sit on the sidelines, right? Because if you sit on the sidelines, someone else is going to get that job. Someone else is going to call Dinesh, or someone else is going to call Rose. So don't sit on the sidelines waiting for your career to take the next step. You take control of your own career. And I will last comment, my email address is cwade, again, CWADE @USHG.com. And this has been a blast, man. Thank you.
No doubt. Thank you. Everybody, a round of applause. The drop. Okay, so there you have it. Again, we are celebrating Black History Month. We are celebrating our Black history, American history. We are celebrating the making of Black history within the food service and hospitality space for Black people. And even though, we're talking about this in Black History Month in February, this is not just a 1 month thing. This is a conversation and action and a movement that is going to go on throughout the course of the year, 12 months out of the year. And as we depart, I want to thank our sponsor, Eat Okra. I need everybody to go to Eat Okra, the app, download the app, refer a restaurant. If you're in your neighborhood and you see a restaurant that is not within the directory of Eat Okra, you can add it. If you're a restaurateur out there, we need you to get actively involved in Eat Okra. We have benefit packages. We have wraparound services. There are many things that we could provide to the restaurant itself. You can upload your own photos. You can manage your own content. You can reach out to Kevin or Anthony at eatokra.com. Anthony, I'm gonna put you out there a little bit. Anthony at eatokra.com, or you can also reach Kevin at eatokra.com. Email. Kevin is the success manager for onboarding new restaurants. We need those restaurants that are on the app to go onto the app and actually claim their restaurant. There's a difference if your restaurant is listed, but we actually need you to actually claim the restaurant, which is going to be a huge benefit as Eat Okra rolls out more products and services that are going to benefit restaurants across the country. So again, that's Eat Okra, the app, www.eatokra.com. You can download it from your store, whether you have an Apple or Android product. You can download the app. So we want to thank them for sponsoring today's discussion. Without any further ado, I want to thank you. Marvin in the studio, drop that crazy beat for me. Listen, power to the people, all right?